Okay, not for
Someone just, are you rolling?
Live, but it's okay. What were you going to say?
Al Jazeera, are they here?
Well, they're going to be potentially broadcasting this feed on a channel, not the main website, but one of their channels in
Have you got a contact for them?
They sent us an email, and we've green left the newspaper.
Our Sri Lankan friends.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay, well,
So,
wondering if there was a Sydney contact here. But
no, we just got asked by. We were going to do it anyway, so we said, yeah, feel free to use the link if you like. It'll be available. We'll see if they end up using it or not. So maybe they'll check in and out. I was just trying to. That's alright, nice to meet you.
I keep saying to my kids, you are living in really strange times. One thing that we talked about maybe going to grandchildren or something, and the Trump president is something other writing PhDs about it, and going, well, what was that like?
So maybe hilarious, all of you. Wow. All right. Sylvia, I need you in this.
Hi.
Okay, you need to come closer. You're on blink. I'm going to get much closer. So I'm going to go straight in closer. How are you doing? We're here today alongside Palestinian Action, commemorating the 66,000 Palestinians.
Yeah, I've just gone live on. It's weird though. It won't let me do it
Almost 2 million
horizontally. strange.
time and time again.
If I turn horizontal, it says turn it back. You can't do it like that. Yeah. How are you? It was really good. I was away for about like a month visiting family in the UK. Mostly that, and then I went to Rome as well. Yeah, well, it was crazy. It's like so front and centre with all these like far right rallies there, and then these big Palestine rallies. So it's like very polarised. They didn't like confirm it, but I sent it. Yeah. Well, they might use it, they might not, is my thinking. Yeah. But it's going up on our feed, on our YouTube.
Who's doing that?
It's a chance.
This one.
Yeah, it'd be good if someone share like the live stream.
Who's going to do that?
I'm not sure.
I think it's better ring through to the next one.
Yeah.
Ring it and say, you do that.
Oh, that's right. I spoke to Alex about it.
Right,
What about more complicated things?
Hi. You know, we're sort of live streaming for Al Jazeera.
we're here today alongside the
I'm just wondering, well, we're setting it up so it might be sort of live. Can you just put something over it?
Spelling out there. 7:30.
Share the live stream. Yeah.
We're here today alongside commemorating the
Oh, 730 days.
Is this your
genocide.
This
Over 150,000
stolen from my other job.
winning this?
Well, no, they say if you're the only one to use it.
Right now, Israel is genocide and is suicide in West Bank. Together.
But whenever you're the next one to use it, if you're used it, let's say I'll just take it up and look it up. So I had it with me anyway.
As we find this,
Yeah.
an anti-apartheid regime will fight amnesty to be crime against humanity and all arbitrarily detained Palestinians.
I mean, there's
The Australian government must not
8 people, I think, right now.
implement two-weapons embargo and targeted sanctions against complicit Israelis and enemies. Palestinians continue to witness horror after horror and war crime after war. Justice for Palestinians cannot wait. Join up with the of 10 million in over 100 countries. Now, for justice.
Yeah, there is like 3 structural rallies.
Yeah, thank you.
Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Yeah, we're being held back because of this. Isaac, you went to Thursday one where
No, I wasn't.
we were producing and
That was just a simple report.
that's the ABC.
Right. Cool.
Yes. How can we get it later?
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the egg. Yeah, that's
Straight
why I
away.
want the other one.
Anim?
There he is. There he is.
Don't walk.
فمأساتي التي أحيا نصيبي من مآسيكم أناديكم أشد على أيديكم وأغوص الأرض تحت نعالكم أناديكم أشد على أيديكم وأغوص الأرض تحت نعالكم أنا ما كنت في وطني ولا صغرت أكتافي أنا ما كنت في وطني ولا صغرت أكتافي وقفت بوجه الله يتيم النار وقفت بوجه الله يتيم النار شدت على أيديكم وأغوص الأرض تحت نعالكم أناديكم شدت على أيديكم وأغوص الأرض تحت نعالكم حملت دمي على كفي وما نكست عالمي حملت دمي على كفي وما نكست عالمي وصلت العشب الأخضر فوق دون أسلافي حملت دمي على كفي وما نكست عالمي وصلت العشب الأخضر فوق دون أسلافي شدت على أيديكم وأغوص الأرض تحت نعالكم وأطوف أناديكم شدت على أيديكم وأغوص الأرض الهوش وشدوا ردوا العجبة الصهيونية بلاد الصهيونية وين النخوة العربية وين النخوة العربية دكتور الهوش وشدوا ردوا العجبة الصهيونية بلاد الصهيونية وين النخوة العربية وين النخوة العربية وين العرب يشوفوا لالي فلسطين الجاري عالتالي وين العرب يشوفوا لالي لكينا ابواب الشهالي دخل علينا يا حرية فينا الحالية ارجع عيون الشبل الأمام المالية والنار بالأعمال فينا الحالية ارجع عيون الشبل الأمام المالية الإفاضة علمتنا نصطد العالم كلمتنا نغضب كله لو منا ربوا يا أهل الحبيب الإفاضة علمتنا نصطد العالم كلمتنا نغضب كله لو منا ربوا يا أهل الحبيب وين الجاري عالتاني وين الغرب يشوفوا
Okay, testing. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners on the lands on which we meet today. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and I acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded, has never been ceded and will never be ceded. As we continue the fight for decolonisation and liberation, we equally bear the responsibility of fighting against systems of injustice in this colony every day. To this effect, I'd like to welcome Auntie Barb Simmons to give a welcome to country. Auntie Barb is a proud Gadigal Vigil woman, elder, born on country and is a traditional custodian of the land. If we could please make Auntie Barb Simmons feel very welcome today. Apologies, it's Auntie Barb Sims who'll be giving a welcome to country.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. To our children that are here, good afternoon to you. As a traditional owner, custodian of the land, I welcome you. To my brothers and sisters before me, to the Palestinians, to each and every one of you here today, that we fight for justice, for human rights, equality and equity. We need to walk together with each other and show unity. From my elders, past, present, emerging, we welcome you, we honour you, and we give you thanks. We praise the beautiful people before us. It takes strong people to stand up to humanity and to the wrongs. How do we right the wrongs? What's happening in the world today that breeds hate, genocide? There's no room for it. We have suffered as Aboriginal people in our own land. We have seen genocide. We have witnessed it. I've been a part of it. My family's before me. When we've seen those 3 ships sailing to Botany Bay, which is now Gamay, Botany Bay. Also, they came to the harbour. It's time to stop it. It's time to walk together and say there's no room for it. If we can't be peaceful within each other, and if we can't show humanity for a people that have been oppressed by what is happening around the world. Our Australia is the most populous country in the world that embraces multiculturalism. Otherwise, people wouldn't be flocking to come here to live, to a land of freedom, diversity, hope and inspirations. We have it. We can give it to you. We can share it. Be mindful of who you are and what we're doing. There is absolutely no room for hate. And we look at genocide, and it's something you can't hide. How do we hide genocide? The people that are oppressing us, and to the beautiful people that have been harmed by it. To each and every one of us here today, and to the people of Australia, Sydney, wherever we come from in this great world of ours, we need to walk with you, side by side, show your hand in peace. It costs you nothing to say, how are you? Can I help you? Where are you from? I know where I'm from. I know where my travels are. I know where I want to go. And I open my arms and my heart so freely to you, to each and every one of you today. Be mindful, be respectful, and let's think of solidarity. What is it? It's a word. Our skins only define who we are as a people. We all bleed red. We don't bleed multitude of colours. Remember that. So the blackness within us, it's here to stay. When we look at our women and our men that travel around the world to lay in the sun to get all these beautiful suntans, we black-skinned people have it. We have it 24/7, 24 hours a day. So ladies and gentlemen that have been a part of the genocide, family members that are here, and if you've travelled from across the world, across the globe, or across Australia and our great states, think where we are. One of the greatest countries in the world, a land of hope. It wasn't so like in the early days, but we've come a long way as a people. We just need to move forward and to talk to each other. My friend, my love, I give to you. I hold my hands out to friendship in you. If you embrace it, so be it. But let's think who we are as a people. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless Palestine, its people, and the martyrs that are still there today fighting for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Auntie Barb, for that truly touching welcome to country. To introduce myself, my name is Raneem Imad, and I'm a Palestinian activist from Gaza. I will be chairing today's vigil for you all. There isn't a lot that can be said today. Most of our organised actions are in anger and fighting for our collective demands, but it is equally important to gather to simply remember what we are fighting for and what we have lost and what we may continue to lose. In the names of our martyrs and in the names of all our families in Gaza, I'd like to invite you all to start today's vigil with a minute of silence to remember everyone we have lost in this 2-year fight. I'd like to invite my Muslim brothers and sisters to read Surah Al-Fatiha over the souls of our martyrs. Thank you very much. There are no words today, and I think everyone I've spoken to today has said the exact same thing. What can we say to give justice to even one of our martyrs, let alone in a time where there are reports that we have reached 680,000 martyrs in Gaza? There are no words. Nothing I could say today could give justice to one of the children who have lost their lives to such violence, to such depravity. There is nothing that we can say, and I'll keep repeating this. This genocide has changed us. It has threatened to destroy every single one of our beliefs and who we are as human beings. And we know that our pain here, being unable to sleep, being unable to eat, is nothing compared to those under the bombs in Gaza. I was in Gaza 10 months before this genocide in a trip that absolutely changed me as a person. Gaza was beyond words in its beauty, its resilience, and its defiance. I left Gaza making plans to return and thinking about what a career would look like in Gaza. I used to tell my family, forget the bombs, give me a job in Gaza and I would live there. Who would have thought that I would now scroll through my photos of Gaza, absolutely refusing to believe that all of this has been taken from us. There are no words today, but we are here to at least try. We are here today to mourn our martyrs together in community, in solidarity and in strength, and maybe a few tears as well. In saying this, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Nessa Turnbull-Roberts. Nessa is a proud Vigil woman. She's a staunch advocate for First Nations justice, as well as an award-winning author and a lawyer. If we could please make her feel very welcome today.
I really want to say good evening, but it's never a good evening when we're coming here weekly and then organising national marches. Jingiwala Nongali Juga Juga Nongali Banjalang Wujabuwa Gurna. Gurna to the Gada, Nanagada leaves that you're all standing under, the healing leaves. These leaves are holding, these trees are holding, they're quite young, but they're bringing us together in this moment, providing far greater protection than any form of authoritarian system that is actually around us. The same authoritarian system that's likely to try and stop the National March next week, which actually requires us to keep our ongoing strength and struggle and fight for Palestine. My name is Vanessa Turnbull-Roberts and I'm a proud Bundjalung Widjabul Waiable woman, and I'm honoured to be invited to come and speak and share a few words here with you all this evening. Thank you to the organisers, thank you to the people that are doing so much work behind the scenes, and thank you to the people, whilst we know these numbers are smaller than our usual weekly meetups or gatherings or coming together, that the fact that we are being consistent and compassionate and not being silent and demanding that there is an end to the genocide that we are seeing. Last week I had the privilege to speak on a panel, and on the panel we spoke about the similarities and the struggles between First Nations people here in so-called Australia and the ongoing occupation that is going on in Palestine. What we know when we talk about colonisation and the violence in Palestine and what's going here is that Australia does it here so well to our children and young people, except it does it so systematically that often we can be blind to the injustice that we are seeing. But one of the tools that Palestine and Palestinians are being subject to is the main tool that First Nations people here, Indigenous people in the Philippines, Rohingya, Congo, Indigenous people across the world being subject to things such as incarceration, because incarceration is the greatest tool that can be used to silence our people. And that's what we're seeing used here, and we're seeing it in the National Trump Peace Agreement, which is not a peace agreement. I won't comment too much on that because I also acknowledge I'm not Palestinian, it's not my place, and that is up to the people directly impacted. But what makes me sick is that it's 4 white supremacists that want to hold the power over the negotiating process of what is not peace. Shame! There can never be peace when you're contemplating whether you release 1,500 people from a prison. 1,500 people where we know more than half those people are children and young people. Shame! Shame on not letting food go to Palestine. Shame on committing a genocide. Shame on shooting and killing young people. And shame on a disproportionate response that sees children throw a piece of paper and the Israeli occupation respond with strikes, bombs and violence funded by this country, funded by the USA and funded by the white supremacy that we see flow so well and smoothly. Shame! Our justice is intertwined with the Palestinian fight. Our people make up more than half the prison population here in so-called Australia. Shame! Until Palestine is free, which we know is the moral litmus test for all of us, we know we are in a moment right now. We heard my beautiful Auntie Barb give a precious welcome to country, talking about the peace and the love of Palestine. We heard her strength, we heard that she allowed us and welcomed us here in this country, on this place. And we know for a fact that what is going on in Palestine is going on here in so-called Australia. And we all have a duty. When we think of the strength and we think of the struggle and we think of everybody coming together, we know for a fact that the tolls are changing. We know for a fact that the power is laying in the hands of the people. We know for a fact that every time we come together, whether it's a small amount, a large amount, or a medium, every time we come together, we are showing where we stand when it comes to making sure we see sanctions on Israel. Whether you're funding a nail, whether you're funding a large piece of a weapon, if you are participating, you are actively complicit in the violence. Shame. So I just wanted to acknowledge everybody coming out here tonight, acknowledge my beautiful Auntie Barb. I don't know where she's gone off, if she's, I love you Auntie Barb, for my heart, the whole thing. Yeah. And we are at a vigil, and I just wanted to acknowledge what vigils mean, in particular around sorry business, because in our culture, sorry business is a very important thing. And I know for a fact that if we were actually to undertake sorry business for every single life that has been lost in Palestine, well, we would need to be here for over a year. We would actually need to be here for over 2 years, over 3 years, because we know for a fact that this did not start on October 7th. We know for a fact that we are here for far more greater reasons, where we know the genocide against Palestine has been happening for far too long, except now the resistance is loud, now the love is loud, now the compassion is loud, now for a fight for humanity, and to say, actually, let's look at Palestine, let's look at the strength, because when Palestine is free, we know that we will all be free, because this has brought the world together. The world. I think of Truganini, I think of Barangaroo, I think of Annie Barb, I think of my Uncle Dean, my Auntie Kalita, I think of my mother, my father, the people that have been fighting, resisting in their own ways in a place that doesn't say they don't belong. My nan was a slave on her own land. My father was considered less human for half his life. And then he watched his own daughter be taken. Because that's the way systematic violence works. If you can bring separation, if you can enact disconnection, then you can not only physically hurt me, but you can mentally see the implications of what it does to a whole community and a whole village. And that is one of the tools and main tools that we're seeing used by Israel. They're killing children intentionally. They're separating the kids. They're incarcerating young people, because we know the power and the love is often led by the young. The young hold that power because we say to our elders and our community members, auntie, uncle, I've got this. I'll lead, I'll lead, I'll lead. But then we see a response of separation and disconnection. And we know what that does to families, and we know what that does to communities. Here in this country, we have a prime example of removal, separation, incarceration that works well. So all I say is I acknowledge all the lives that we have lost post-October 7th, but I know for a fact there are so many lives prior to October 7th that we need to honour, that we need to hold tight, and that we need to have in our thoughts here tonight. Sorry, business matters. Keeping Palestine, keeping all countries and First Nations people across the world who are facing an ongoing genocide matters. None of us are free until we are all free, so thank you so much for your time. Gadigal, have a beautiful night where you can, and just hold each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nessa, for reminding us that all of our liberation is interconnected, because the forces that oppress us, these colonial forces, they are all one. The same occupational forces that shot 355 bullets into Hind Rajab are the same colonialist forces that continue to incarcerate Indigenous and First Nations children here in this colony. And they are the same colonial forces that drafted up that joke of a peace plan that we saw was released last week. And we can make all these comments how it is a truly racist plan, how one of the points of the plan are to de-radicalize the population of Gaza, a point that makes no sense because it continues to insinuate that the people of Gaza deserve this genocide that has been unleashed to them, that they are not innocent, that they are these barbaric forces that justified the very first bomb that fell on Gaza. But beyond this, we've seen that, and I was thinking a lot about this yesterday, that despite the absolute rubbish that was this peace plan, the idea of the bombs not falling on Gaza, if even for a minute, it gave our people hope. My cousins were texting me that maybe we could finally see each other again. Maybe we'll finally have a ceasefire, and sure, we'll work out all the bullshit that this peace plan is after. But let us breathe for a second. And then we saw Netanyahu last night make a comment that he would not stop the bombs falling on Gaza until every hostage was released, which we know will not happen. This entire peace plan has been reaffirmed to be absolute rubbish. And so we come here together in anger at these bombs that will not stop killing my family and the families of Gaza. In grief at the people we have lost, the beautiful, beautiful people who deserve so much life. And we also gather here in determination that we will not stop fighting, because the people of Gaza deserve our voices, they deserve our rage, they deserve our tears, and they deserve our unwavering resolve to free Palestine from the river to the sea. I'd like to now introduce our next speaker, Robert Martin. Robert Martin is a staunch advocate for Palestine way before October 7. I grew up watching his videos confronting Israeli settlers on why Palestinians couldn't access certain areas in El Khalil. He is incredible. He's one of the very brave people who went on one of the flotillas in an attempt to break the blockade and break the seas on Gaza. Please make him feel very welcome today.
Hi everybody. It's a strange day, isn't it? First of all, I want to acknowledge all the Palestinians here. You please raise your hands. Raise your hands. I want to see them. Be proud. Be proud. And I'm going to apologise to you for taking so long to figure out what was going on in Palestine. And I'm apologising on behalf of many other Australians and those worldwide. Because you've either been ignored completely or demonised. There was no room in the middle. No room in the middle. My best friend is Palestinian, Nasser Mashni. You're probably familiar with him. He's a very strong advocate, born Palestinian. He was my best friend, my business partner, and my best man at my wedding. And he used to tell me, Rob, they are killing my family. They are stealing our land. I'd go home and I'd watch our news, and the news would say that the Palestinians were terrorists and the Israelis were defending themselves. And it's embarrassing to say that, but the reason I tell you that is I know that October 3rd, October 7 woke up a whole lot of people. The media and the government have been absolutely complicit in what's going on. Their use of language. There is a document called the Israel Project and also the Hasbara Guide. And it shows uni students how to fight for Israel. Every time you use the word Palestinian, you must use the word terrorist in front of it. It's stated in this document. Every time you use the word Israeli, they are murdered. They are a loving father. They get the name, the full bio of this particular person. The Palestinian is nameless. I started to realise how racist we were when I started to post exactly the same things that Nasser posted online. People believed me because I'm white. That was the beginning of it. I had the anti-terror unit come to my office and spend 3.5 hours with me because the local Jewish community had, didn't enjoy my posts. The anti-terror unit, it was the best thing that they ever did because they came in and they said, Rob, we understand what you're doing, you're trying to get the right information. They knew that I was going to go to Palestine and they thought, you're doing more than most because you're going to go and figure out what's going on. And that's what I did. Some of you have heard this story, but I think it's very, very relevant today as we go into tomorrow. I went to Palestine. Before I got into Palestine, I witnessed racism. I was on a bus coming from Jordan, Allenby Bridge, to Palestine. The bus stopped. I was the immigrant or the visitor. Everybody else was taken off the bus. All of their bags were taken out. They got on the bus and said, you're okay. And I'm, seriously? They got on the bus and we drove another 15 minutes to the border and they tried to get me to bypass all of the families that were sitting down, lying down. They had the elderly lying up against the walls. They had kids lying on their mothers and fathers. And they said, you can go through. And I said, I'm not going through. And I sat there and I watched the dehumanisation of the Palestinians as they went home. They are going home to their own country. And they are facing the dehumanisation. So they get dehumanised at home and they get dehumanised worldwide for being terrorists. My first day in Palestine, I went to a village called Belin. It's famous for the 5 broken cameras. And the reason it's famous for the 5 broken cameras is because they're making documentaries and the cameras were continually broken because that's how the Israelis used to do it back then. We didn't have the cloud. And so this particular village, I had spoken to someone online, Hamdi Abu Rama. I was sitting in his lounge room having a coffee and a cigarette and everyone became frantic. They said, we've got to go, Rob. I said, I'm coming. He said, no way. I ended up in the front seat of the car. We drove about 10 minutes up to the top of the village and it's a bizarre sight. You see an Israeli vehicle, fully armoured. You see 4 soldiers there with M16s. Behind that you see an apartheid wall. And then beyond that you see settlements, brand new buildings. So these soldiers had no business being here. And the reason they were there was to take children's play equipment because they wanted to provoke the Palestinians. It's the only reason they want to provoke, because they're there in self-defence. As I got out of the car, the M16 was pointing at my friend Hamdi, and I'd never had an M16 pointed at me. They're pretty big. Once he figured out that I was white, the M16 moved slightly so it would cover his own face, because he didn't know who I was. He's thinking, what's this white guy doing here? And he really didn't know what to do. They threw stun grenades at us. They were very threatening. The Palestinians I'd only just met, and they were standing around protecting me. And the soldiers were yelling at them, and the Palestinians were yelling back. I got the vibe things were a little bit, a bit hectic. And then they ran. They ran for their life. And I figured out later, well, they told me later, the reason was that the soldiers threatened to kill the Palestinians, and the Palestinians weren't leaving without me. And then the soldiers said, we're going to shoot him if you don't go. And then they left. So the Palestinians are not the terrorists that you think, but they are a magnificent, magnificent human beings. Every single one of them. If you get to surround yourself with some Palestinians, you're blessed. They are very, very wise. They have lived far beyond their years because of the experiences that the world has put upon them. You have the children. I went to another village and I saw all of these villagers, these kids, they were all limping. And I said, what's going on here? They're all limping. The soldiers were bored, so they started shooting them in the sciatic nerve.
Shame.
They'll limp for the rest of their lives, and they'll also have trauma. But that was another thing that I saw. I'm not a journalist. I didn't go over to find or catch them out, but it was exposed to me. I was getting a haircut every few days because we got along really well. After a while, a picture on his wall came up, and either I asked him or he told me that that was my nephew. I said, oh, fantastic. He was his apprentice, who was executed at his front door. The soldiers got the wrong person. There was a letter to say that it was wrongful, but nothing else. Executed the front of his door. One more story. While I was over there, a 6-year-old girl was murdered by an Israeli settler, an illegal Israeli settler. She ran 2 kids over intentionally. One died, who was 6. My daughter was 6 at the time. And the other girl is mentally not well. I organised a huge banner with Naomi Wolf, who was an American writer. We wanted to deliver it to the family to say that we're watching. We had 1,000 signatures on it. Soldiers said I couldn't go there. Soldiers said I could not visit. They threatened me, and we have, undercover footage of me speaking to them. They said they were there to protect the family. And I said, have you ever seen a Palestinian, this is in the occupied West Bank, have you ever seen a Palestinian with a gun? And they said, no. And I said, well, who's protecting who here? Well, every single day, that family cannot grieve. Every single day, they have to see the illegal Israeli settler drive past who killed their 6-year-old and got away with it. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. The anniversary of October 7 is tomorrow. What would you do? I saw these 3-4 stories. Who are we? Who are we to tell the Palestinians how to resist? Under international law, people under occupation have the right to self-defense, any means possible. Any means possible. We have no right to judge. October 7 is Western governments, Western media's fault. If they had dealt with Israel the way they should have dealt with it many, many decades ago, we wouldn't be in this position today. You allow a drug addict to give them more drugs, they continue doing what they're doing. We, the Western countries, are to blame. Thank you for having me, and free Palestine. I just wanted to make mention of the flotilla. I was on the last flotilla. I'll speed through that whole process. I was put in maximum security, and they manhandled us and mistreated us, and then put false rumours out. Well, there's I think 7 Australians out there at the moment that we haven't heard from. What you need to do is you need to reach out to DFAT. We need to contact all of our legal representatives because they have a legal obligation to protect their citizens in another country. DFAT has that responsibility, that's their job. So please, if you get a chance, Google it. You can start the easel Google by the Samud Flotilla, everything will come up there. And the illegal siege in 2005 was created. That's when the Freedom Flotilla boats started. They've been going on since 2006. This was the 38th voyage, just so you know. Okay, sorry.
Thank you very much, Robert Martin, and it's a very important call to action that we know that all of the members of all the boats in this most recent flotilla are facing unimaginable torture, unimaginable pain. Our brother Abdul Rahman, we haven't heard from him in hours now. He's from Sydney, he's from the University of Sydney, I believe. We haven't heard from him in days. We have no idea what these people are going through, and therefore it is our responsibility to continue calling and to put the pressure on our government, put the pressure on DFAT to make something happen, and also to keep putting pressure on more and more flotillas going to Gaza and eventually not just entering Palestinian waters as we saw that this wave did, but getting food to Gaza. Because if our failures of governments won't do it, then it is up to us, and we need to do whatever it takes to feed the people of Gaza and give aid to the people of Gaza and end this bombardment and this blockade. I wanted to now introduce our next speaker, Iyad Al-Madi. Iyad is like an asset here in PAG. He is absolutely incredible. These protests would not be possible without him. He's a Palestinian man from Haifa. If we could please make him feel very welcome today.
I'm going to be quick. This is for the so-called plan, the so-called peace plan. He walked to the stage with a grin so wide. The world was watching, and he spoke with pride. He said, peace has come, war will end, but deep inside, we know it's a pretend. They call it a peace plan, they wave it high, but it's the same old plan to make us comply. They cut our homeland piece by piece and dare to call this broken map peace. They said Hamas agreed to part of the deal, but not to surrender, not to kneel, no to Trump rule, no to foreign reign, no to giving up Gaza, and no more pain. This isn't peace, it's a power in disguise, with cameras, smiles, and practiced lies. We've seen this trick, we've known this game. It's an occupation under a different name. We don't need leaders from far away. We can speak for ourselves, we can fight our way. We want all voices, our people to stand, to shape our peace with our own hand. They said, take this offer, be quiet, agree. But our answer is simple. We choose to be free. Resistance is life, is standing tall, is saying no once and for all. It's the farmer showing against all odds. It's the mother whispering prayers to God. It's the child with a key to a home long gone. It's the same voices singing the same brave song. We will build our road. We will shape our way. And no one can take our right to say. To resist is to live, to stay and to see a future of justice for you and for me. We don't give up. We don't give in. Our story is long and our roots are within. Our teeth have watered their sacred ground. Our strength in each other is what we found. They think we are tired, that our hope is small, but but our roots are deep. We still stand tall. Our story continues, our hearts will glow, and to this false plan, we say no. This is our right to live, to be free, to build a true peace between the river and the sea. Thank you so much. And Palestine will be free in our lifetime, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iyad, in this reminder that not only is our resistance in all form, but our resistance as Palestinians has lived long before October 7 in purely our existence. When we wave the Palestinian flag, when we speak in the Palestinian dialect, we are expressing our identity as Palestinians who will eventually return to our motherland from the river to the sea. All right, I want to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Peter Slezak. Peter, yeah, he's incredible. He was correct. Peter is a Jewish anti-Zionist academic. He is unwavering in his words. He's absolutely incredible. There's no better way to introduce him. Please make Peter feel very welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to join you here, as on so many other occasions, and especially now on the anniversary of the 2 years of the genocide. Prime Minister Albanese and Foreign Minister Penny Wong took a long time just to call for a ceasefire. Shame indeed. And their belated declaration of Palestinian statehood is really an empty gesture when we're still sending F-35 jet parts, of course non-lethal parts as they want to say, to Israel. Albanese and Wong have been making excuses for doing nothing, saying that we're too far away and not being a great power. But as Chris Sidoti, the wonderful speaker at the press club just the other day, he explained at the National Press Club, the real question is what are our pressing obligations under international law and the Genocide Convention, which we are not acting on. There's a long list of things that we should have been doing and should be doing and we're not doing. So with President Trump's latest so-called peace plan, things are in flux right now, and it's not clear what's going to happen. Trump's so-called plan requires that the victims of the genocide, not the perpetrators, Israel, they must be de-radicalized and demilitarized. Shame on the whole crowd that wants to insist on that kind of a process. But of course, our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, thinks it's all fine. He says Australians welcome progress on President Trump's plan to bring peace to Gaza. Shame on him. Now, of course, the plan was presented to the Palestinians as an ultimatum. They were told to take it or leave it, in which case Israel would be permitted to finish the job, as they like to say, and that's their genocide and ethnic cleansing of Gaza. The Palestinians were not consulted, and the plan offers no path to the statehood that they deserve. And in fact, speaking in Hebrew to reporters immediately after the presentation of the plan, Netanyahu rejected the idea of a Palestinian state, of course, which is not new because he's done that repeatedly over the years. And you may know that the Likud charter, the charter of his party, says that there will not be any Palestinian state from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea. So it's been gaslighting and nonsense all along, as it should have expected. So what the Palestinians are being offered now is not wrong, self-determination, but a permanent apartheid. Palestinians are required to surrender their population and submit to subjugation by Israel. So it's not a peace plan, but terms of a surrender for Hamas. Trump's plan, the 20-point plan, transforms the Gaza Strip from a graveyard, which is what it is, into the French Riviera, as he likes to say. Shame indeed. And it's to be governed by the former British Prime Minister, the war criminal, Tony Blair, through a so-called... As your reaction shows, of course, Blair should be on trial at The Hague for war crimes, not running Gaza. One commentator, a UK commentator, a woman on TV, said, they got Tony Blair because Satan was unavailable. But of course, again, our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, said, Tony Blair is someone who has always played a constructive role. Shame on him. Now, of course, it seemed that Hamas was in a difficult position because it could neither accept nor reject the plan for various complicated reasons. But interestingly, Hamas did both. And Trump actually posted the Hamas response on his social media online. But predictably, Israel and Netanyahu were not happy. The journalist Jeremy Scahill reported, Netanyahu told Trump, there's nothing to celebrate and it doesn't mean anything. But Trump shot back, I quote, I don't know why you're always so fucking negative, unquote. Now, of course, Trump is so unpredictable, and Israel could always blow up any deal, and so they would continue the genocide and end up blaming Hamas. So it's not clear where this is going to go. In any case, whatever happens, in the wake of the genocide in Gaza, we, and I mean especially the Jews, are facing one of the greatest moral tests of our time. Genocide scholars now suggest that the true number of Palestinians murdered in Gaza may be in the hundreds of thousands. The journalist Mehdi Hassan said that if you support what Israel is doing in Gaza, you're a sociopath. But it's actually much worse than that. The supporters of Israel are not sociopaths, but perfectly ordinary people. That's the problem. Of course, in Israel, some 90% support it, and some great number of those think Israel hasn't gone far enough. And then there's the community, the Jewish community, who are in total denial of what's happened since October the 7th, and are simply wallowing in their tragedy and not even noticing what's happened in Gaza. This is a disgrace. Today, I'm proud to be among the very many anti-Zionist Jews here and around the world. And of course, we've been protesting what Israel is doing in our name. I've been proud to be at every Gaza rally for 2 years now, and it's important, and I say it every single time because it's on the record and we know what the Zionists want to say. But it's important for me to say that there is never any hint of anti-Semitism at our rallies, ever. It's important, and I pay tribute. And of course, as I do every time, I make a special call out to the Jews Against the Occupation with their banner there. And it's important for us to make this acknowledgement so that the smears are simply unfounded, as we all know, and as they know. It refutes the smears that these are Jew hate rallies. Nevertheless, the Israel lobby doesn't give up, and the organisations continue to harass particularly prominent critics of Israel on the spurious charge of anti-Semitism. This is a McCarthyite or a Stalinist witch hunt, targeting the most significant, the most decent people, and I mean heroic figures like, of course, Antoinette Lattouf, who's, of course, she won her case, which is a very important precedent. But there are still others like Mary Kostakidis, my colleague Nick Riemer and John Keane at Sydney University, and now the highly esteemed Dr. Peter MacDonald at St Vincent's Hospital, who are facing the most absurd accusations, completely unfounded, to harass people who are speaking out in the name of human rights for Palestine. Of course, this witch hunt is not new. This witch hunt is not new because years ago in an interview, if you follow this literature, you'd be aware how many times this has happened. The late Israeli parliamentarian from Israel, Shlomo Aloni, said, oh yes, anti-Semitism. It's a trick we always use to silence critics of Israel. There's a long list of famous people who have pointed out this trick, but it doesn't seem to go away and it doesn't seem to be ever silenced. And in particular, of course, it's important that Palestinians are expected to put aside their suffering, their trauma and their grief to pander to Jewish discomfort about a slogan or a keffiyeh or a watermelon. In these circumstances of a genocide, of course, the current obsession with anti-Semitism, which is almost entirely unfounded, I always make the point that I grew up in Australia and in my entire life I have never experienced or seen any anti-Semitism ever. So this is a very important indication of what's going on in Australia. What is called anti-Semitism is really justified moral outrage about what Israel is doing and in the name of Jews. Of course, we have to understand that the tidal wave of propaganda about anti-Semitism is that the intense, absurd efforts by the Israel lobby and their apologists to deny Israel's vast crimes are not working. And that's because everyone can see the truth, as we all can, on our phones and on television. And we know that Gaza looks like Hiroshima after the atom bomb. So the question is, who in their right mind can believe that this is in self-defense, targeting Hamas militants? It's bullshit, and everybody knows it. So Israel and its flunkies in the Zionist lobby have had to turn to their traditional methods to distract attention and demonize me and the critics. And so they use the anti-Semitism slur, but I just want to say a few personal words about it. Like many of us, I know what anti-Semitism is when I see it. My mother and grandmother, they survived World War II in the Nazi Auschwitz concentration camp, and I grew up hearing their stories. As it happens, I've actually just visited there for the first time in my life, and the awful place in Poland, the Auschwitz-Birkenau complex. It's quite an experience for me to have gone to where my mother and her mother and so many Jews suffered and died. But of course, it's their experience of racism and prejudice which is the reason, it's the very reason that I stand in solidarity with the Palestinians, because today Jews are not the victims. Today Jews are not the victims, we are the perpetrators. And it's to desecrate the memory of my parents and the victims of real anti-Semitism when it's weaponized to silence justified criticism of Israel's crimes. It's also important for me to make the point that my mother always asked, why did the world always look away from the genocide of the Jews and do nothing? I grew up with her questions. Why were they silent? And of course, today we know the answer because we know what complicity looks like among the Jewish supporters of Israel, but of course our politicians and the media to a large extent. Of course, Jews are placed in an invidious position by the fact that Israel claims to be acting on behalf of all Jews everywhere. But of course, leading organizations, Jewish organizations, are enthusiastic propagandists and apologists for Israel's crimes. Shame indeed. And it's important for me to mention things like, for example, a famous rabbi in New York called Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. He marched with Martin Luther King for the civil liberties, civil rights of the African Americans. And he said, in a decent society that's not indifferent to suffering and cruelty, he said, I quote, "A few are guilty, but all are responsible." That's an important lesson for all of us. Finally, let me say a few words about, as I do almost every time, about the chants that are heard, our chant that is heard at rallies here and around the world. We say always, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And this is always condemned by the apologists for Israel's crimes as anti-Semitic, calling for murder of Jews and the annihilation of Israel. It's complete bullshit. But it's in this context, when Israel has officially declared that there will be no Palestinian state from the river to the sea, it should be obvious that the slogan is a plea for liberation and for justice. My colleague, Dr. Lana Tartu, a Palestinian colleague at New South Wales University, has pointed out, quote, She says, they ought to listen to Palestinians who've been articulating liberation as an inclusive project of equal rights for all, unquote. She says this liberation means equality for all the inhabitants of the land and the dismantling of the settler colonialism and dismantling the apartheid regime which exists now. She says this is a demand for the right of Palestinians to live in dignity and equality in their homeland, end of quote. And I'd like to make one other quote, a part of what Nasser National has said, which was mentioned earlier. Among the Palestinians in Australia who are articulating liberation as an inclusive project was Nasser, who's the president of APAD. And he said very eloquently in a longer speech to camera, he said, if you have a problem with freedom and justice for everyone, the problem is not the chant, it's you, end of quote. Finally, let me just say that, of course, we must bring the war criminals and their accomplices, like Albanese and Wong, to account in the International Criminal Court. And of course, we have to demand an immediate permanent end to the Israeli occupation of the West Bank as well, and of course the assault on Gaza. That's what we mean when we all say, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. When we hear the words of such staunch anti-Zionist Jewish people, we are reminded that the claims that our movement is anti-Semitic is absolute rubbish. And when people attempt to shame us and tell us that what we are saying is anti-Semitic or we need to be careful or there's lines we can't tread, we look to our incredibly brave Jewish allies who remind us every day that there is nothing wrong about saying free Palestine. There is nothing anti-Semitic about calling for a free Palestine. And we stand with them in absolute strength on a day when we can celebrate the interfaith of the Palestinian land from the river to the sea. I'd like to now introduce our next speaker, Susan Wahab. Susan Wahab is a Palestinian woman from both Ramla and Lid. Her grandparents are Nakba survivors. She was born in Al-Quds and grew up in Ramallah before coming here to Australia. She is also an organizer with Palestinian Christians Australia. Please make Susan feel very welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to do a prayer tonight, but before I do, I want to talk a little bit about the stories I've been hearing the past 2 years. Since October 23 last year, our organization has been involved in supporting people coming from Gaza, mainly from Gaza, but some people from the West Bank. And every single family that arrived here has a story to tell. They have survived this genocide, and they're all traumatized. A lot of them don't want to tell their story to the media. And yesterday, I spent 5 hours with a Palestinian woman who just came from Gaza 2 weeks ago, highly traumatized. She can't see because when she was sheltering in the church for the past 2 years with the dimmed lights because of, lack of electricity, her eyesight actually deteriorated. And when she went to the shopping center with that much light, she actually fainted. These are the stories that you never hear in the media. That's the stories between the lines. Everything for us is being given as a political statement. Everything you read in the news is abstract. It's not telling the human story. There are 2 million Palestinians in Gaza and 2 million stories of horror, of starvation, of killings. And that lady said, I can never explain to you how bad it is. Even if I tell you the story, you have to see what Gaza looks like. You have to see how people are living there right now to understand how desperate and how depraved it is. So I want to tonight ask you to remember all these people that have died, the people that are suffering, the children. 1 million children are suffering right now and nobody cares. We keep getting political statements and nobody talks about the real stories. These are all innocent people that have been stripped of their homes, of their schools, hospitals, because everything has been destroyed. They want us to lose hope. They want us to think we cannot go back to Gaza. But the stories I've heard from all these families have been inspiring, because even though a lot of them have lost their homes, their businesses, their jobs, and some of them have lost their families, and some of them have come here with illnesses as a result of this war, a lot of them would say, I wish, I would love to, I want to go back to Gaza and I want to build it. So I want to share with you tonight a prayer that we stand here tonight on solemn ground, united by a heavy sorrow. We gather to mark the 2 years. 2 years since the beginning of a campaign of death and destruction in Gaza that has shocked the conscience of the world. 2 years of a genocide unfolding before the eyes of a world that has for too long chosen to look away. We are here to remember, to speak the names of the dead, to honor the tens of thousands of lives, beautiful, precious lives, especially children. We mourn the children who will never grow up, the parents who died protecting them, the doctors, the journalists, the poets, the keepers of the stories. We mourn the shattered families and the mass graves that scar our ancient holy land. As a Christian, I'm compelled to ask, where is God in the midst of this suffering? The Holy Land is not an abstract concept to us. It's the soil where Jesus walked, healed, and took. Gaza itself is a land of ancient faith. It was on the road to Gaza that the Apostle Philip baptized the first Gentile. The ancestors of Gaza's small, resilient Christian community were among the first to follow Christ. They are not just collateral damage, they are the living stones of our faith. And for 2 years, these living stones also have been crushed, together with their Muslim brothers and sisters. Our scripture is not silent in the face of such injustice. The prophet Amos cried out, "Let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream." The psalmist gives us the language of lament, the permission to cry out to God from the depths of our anguish, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Our faith commands us to see the face of God in the image of every human being, in the face of every Gazan mother searching for her child in the rubble. We see the face of Mary at the foot of the cross. In every orphan child, we see the vulnerability of a Christ child who himself became a refugee, fleeing the violence of a king. To stand for Gaza is not political choice. It's a moral and spiritual imperative. It's to answer the most fundamental question that Jesus asks us: who is my neighbor? The people of Gaza are our neighbors. So we are here tonight not to lose hope, but to find it in each other. Our hope is not a passive wish. It's an active, stubborn belief that the darkness will not have the final word. It's the hope of the resurrection, the promise that life, love, and justice will ultimately triumph over death and empire. Let our gathering be a light in this darkness. Let our voice be a testament to the truth. Let our prayers rise for the broken-hearted, and let our actions demand an end to the siege, an end to the occupation, and the beginning of a just and lasting peace for all in our precious Holy Land. Let us pray. God of the oppressed, hear our cries. Be with the people of Gaza. Comfort those who mourn. Heal those who are wounded in body and spirit, and give strength to hope to those who persevere. Shake the conscience of the mortal powerful, and turn the hearts of all people towards your path of peace. May our solidarity tonight be a seed of the just world you call us to build. Amen.
Thank you very much, Susan. I think we're all truly touched by prayers that don't just come from one religion, but really extend to every part of our souls in our fight for a free Palestine. So let me hear you in your loudest voices. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! We're about to mark 2 years. I think we can do a little bit louder than that. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! From the sea to the river! From the sea to the river! Palestine will live forever! Palestine will live forever! There is only one solution! There is only one solution! Okay. Intifada revolution! Intifada revolution! There is only one solution! There is only one solution! Intifada revolution! Intifada revolution! Intifada revolution! Intifada revolution! Intifada revolution! Intifada revolution! Thank you very much, everyone. I'd now like to introduce our next speaker, Ali. Ali is a proud Lebanese, very staunch activist. He's also an incredible poet and writer. He was the winner of the 2024 Poetry Grand Slam final. If we could please make Ali feel very welcome today.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most merciful, the giver of mercy. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of God shower upon you all. I cannot continue today without first acknowledging my Aboriginal brothers and sisters, the traditional custodians and the indigenous people of this land whom also suffered the crimes of theft, subjugation, terrorism, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and extend that to those in attendance today. Today, where all of you could have been relaxing at home, away from the rain, but you've chosen, your humanity and your moral compass led you here. Today we are at a vigil to mourn, but it's a place of mourning, so not a place of outrage and indignation. We know the collective West and dehumanize us.
but grief, mourning and reflection upon what we lost shatters every narrative and propaganda of the West. They only allow you to mourn those who they determine to be the perfect victims. So we say, if you want us to stop mourning martyrs, stop giving us martyrs to mourn. We are still here and we still exist, and all we have ever asked of this government was to tell the truth, but instead they block it. Instead, the Australian government is insulting our collective intelligence. They're trying to convince us without any evidence that the Iranian government orchestrated a bunch of arson attacks on a synagogue and a cafe, and coincidentally enough, Israel boasted about tipping off the Australian government. As if we needed more confirmation of a false flag. Israel has a precedence of false flags since 1950s, the 1950 Foreign Affair. So is Australia's recognition of Palestine, subject to its complicity in war crimes and genocide, or to give more coordinates from Pine Gap to strike Gaza and half of West Asia? But make no mistake, colonialism never gives anything away for free. It's never out of their goodwill. It's only because they cannot put off granting concessions any longer. It is your sustained efforts and pressuring the government are to thank for those efforts. Now there are 6 of the best of us, 6 of our fellow Australians who couldn't to only watch, only speak up. They put their lives on the line and joined the flotilla, and this government is complicit in anything that happens to them at the hands of the most savage, animalistic terrorist organization in the world. So when they tell you you're too extreme, too radical, what galvanized you? You ask them. No, you demand from them an answer. The fingernails and the white phosphorus you can smell from your screen, and the twitching muscles of burnt bodies intense, and the parents that lifted their beheaded babies above their heads for the world to see, and the world did nothing. Has all you. When the UN empties out for Netanyahu, we say about bloody time, but where are the handcuffs? You and I know that international law is an illusion. It is a lie made to spy and control the global south. Just look at the Smut's words recently, that international law doesn't apply to Jews because they're the chosen people. But you and I know the difference between Zionism and Judaism, but Smotrich just has to conflate the two. Because Israel only exists and was birthed by violent settler colonialism. Don't take it from me. Take it from the Knesset in July 2018 and their nation state ruling. The world now knows that peace doesn't exist where Israel does. Because we have this fascist carrot, Trump, with his pseudo peace plan, a Trojan of the Oslo Accords. And he too wants a Nobel Peace Prize. And Netanyahu endorses this. Until, of course, Netanyahu has a precedence of walking out and bailing on ceasefires and other agreements. Because now they are telling Palestinians to choose between continued genocide or military rule. Since when are peace plans ultimatums? Because Qatar, who Netanyahu said is not a threat to Israel, and with all its complicity is still not safe from being struck, because normalization is meaningless. They only want total submission and humiliation. So let's take it back to October 7. 24 years ago with the invasion of Afghanistan, and after it was Libya and Iraq, and then targeting Yemen. The US's nation-building policies have destroyed our countries. Because no, we have a board of peace. The one that, imagine they want to put Blair as the governor of Gaza, billionaire, blood-drenched billionaire Blair, driven out by his own colleagues because of his lies and war crimes, the butcher of Afghanistan and Iraq. And we know about the Australians guilty of war crimes in Afghanistan and Iraq. We also know that this country is still complicit in the genocide of Palestinians with companies like Thales in Rydalmere and Olympic Park, Raytheon and Rafael Systems. So Penny Wong, what exactly is a non-lethal part of a fighter jet? Yes, we make the actuators for the doors, but what exactly is getting loaded and unloaded from these doors? You all remember, they denied it in 2023, and now we have the Deputy Prime Minister saying we're an F-35 nation and we have been for decades. But you all know and are here, and just as disgusted as I am, because you are all part of the struggle, fighting the same fight against settler colonialism and violent imperialist hegemony, and you have been fighting strong. It is a cancer to be destroyed from the core. My brothers and my sisters, to consistently show up with your signs, your souls and your bodies for 2 years is no small feat. You have shown that we are still here and we still exist. The people of Palestine, southern Lebanon, Dahir, Bekaa, Yemen, we are still here no matter the bombs you drop and everyone you massacre. After all the destruction and lobbying and censorship, all of you in front of me who wouldn't be silent, who wouldn't get up, who wouldn't speak, who wouldn't give up, all of you who accounts for the second largest number of Palestine protests in the world, only after Yemen, it is you guys. It's you who have showed up, not just on weekends, but in front of courts, politicians' offices, snap rallies, your efforts online. You have told the world, you are still here, and we will still exist. We still exist. We still exist! We still exist!
Thank you so much, Ali, for those truly inspiring words that have fired us up. Let me hear you all. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! We have the right to rebel! Netanyahu, go to hell! Netanyahu, go to hell! Israel, go to hell! And free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Thank you all very much. I know it's a vigil and we're here to mourn, but we are also here to be enraged and determined and angry together, and thank you all for braving the rain to mark this very unfortunate anniversary with us. I'd now like to introduce our next speaker, Sheikh Wissam Sharkawi. Sheikh Wissam is a community leader, he's a teacher and a political advocate who has fought very strongly for Palestine. He was an essential asset in the Muslim Votes Matter movement, which fought to try and de-seat Labour and Liberal seats who have stayed silent about the cause of Palestine and silent about the suffering that we have all faced. Can we please make the Sheikh feel very welcome today?
I want to acknowledge the tradition of this land on which we stand here and acknowledge First Nations people past, present and emerging. This is a most sombre time and a most sombre. I just want to share a story with you on this day as we stand here today. The words that you've just heard before me, which have really touched every one of us. But there's a story that when I also think about this one mother who stood on film camera and she wasn't crying, the tears weren't running down her face, it's just like she was consumed by grief. And as she was rocking back and forth, not much was known about her other than she was holding a shoe in her hand and sitting on the rubble of what used to be home. As she sat of what used to be her home, rocking back and forth. The shoe in her hand was the last remnant, the last thing left of her child. Countless stories, countless stories. In a recent study that was done, they predict over 650,000 lives have been lost. Two academics who did that study actually said about 650,000 lives. I want you to think about that for a moment. 650,000 lives. The Australian government refuses to use the G word. The Australian government refuses to use the G word. And that is a shame. And that G word is genocide. Every reputable organisation, academic report, whether the United Nations, Amnesty International, the ICC, has declared a genocide, except this Australian government. And there's one reason, and that reason is beyond cruel and sinister. And the reason why it won't use the word genocide is because they then have to hold their own selves accountable. They recently tried to delete pages off the website, DFAT deleted pages off the website about their contribution to the F-35, which is still dropping the bombs on Gaza and Palestine. They are part of the process. They've read the reports. Ladies and gentlemen, the Samud flotilla, and I really want to draw my attention to the Samud flotilla, where governments have failed to lift the flag and lift the banner of humanity and courage and justice. Artists, people who are doctors, lawyers, activists, grassroots have carried the flag of humanity where governments have failed. They have taken the real risk. We stand here today, but they are out there and they're still to date held by the Israeli government, and our government cannot even come out publicly and articulate a single word in defense of its own citizens. That is a real utter shame. These people carried the banner and the flag of humanity, and they deserve every credit. They took the risk and they understood that this is real risk to life and limb, but they stood there taking the risk to deliver aid, to break the siege on Gaza and Palestine that has been at that juncture for 2 years now, to break that siege on Gaza. Ladies and gentlemen, we call upon the government to apply whatever pressure it can to bring its citizens home. We call upon this government to grow a spine and to grow a backbone and to put those values that you so much articulate and argue for of justice and courage, to put it where it is and to bring and protect your citizens home. I want to remind each and every one of us today, and I often get asked this question, what can we do? Ladies and gentlemen, the truth is that you coming here today and standing here as one body is significant. And it's so significant because it shows your resolve. It shows our resolve. We will never ever be silent. We will always stand. We will always be out there. We will always take those risks. We will never go into the shadows. We will always stand for what is right. One soul is worth saving. One single soul. The name Samud for the Samud flotilla is not haphazard. It's not a coincidence. In the Arabic, the name Samud actually stands for resistance. It stands for steadfastness. And it's actually based off the back of decades of resistance. And I will always say this, and I will never back down from this point where Francesca Albanese, where she said that Palestinians have an inherent right to resist. Palestinians have an inherent right to resist, and that will never be abolished. It's an inherent right, and that will always exist, and this is where the name Samud comes from. It's built on the back and based off the back of decades of resistance. Ladies and gentlemen, you coming out here today and you just look around, people coming from various different backgrounds, various denominations, people maybe have different languages, people have different philosophies, but you've come here today to stand as one. And this is so meaningful, this is so significant. Do not ever think or believe, and wallah, I've had conversations with people in Gaza who say you're standing together in these moments for us is some alleviation, where we see that the world has not forgotten us, where we see the world come together, where we see the world talking about justice and ending the oppression and ending the genocide. Ladies and gentlemen, don't ever stop coming together. Don't ever stop standing for justice, and don't ever stop attending these events, because they make the world of difference. Sometimes we think that the small steps are not significant, but you can't reach those points unless you take those small steps. So keep standing, keep coming, keep advocating, keep speaking, keep taking those risks, because these small steps will never be forgotten. And for generations to come, you will always be the people who were remembered for standing on the principles of justice, where others cowered, where governments actually dwindled into the shadows and were found wanting. What a shame it is on our government, who now possesses and has more than 90 seats in government and cannot find itself to say a single word. When we were out there advocating to say to the people that you need to demonstrate the power of your vote, people, and I remember the criticisms back then, but now we have a Labour government. If we ever needed proof in the pudding, it's this. Over 90 seats, and they cannot say the word genocide.
Shame.
After the world's experts, the genocide scholars have declared it genocide, if we ever needed that. But ladies and gentlemen, it just shows people power, and it shows what coming together is all about. I thank you very much for being here today. I thank you for coming out. We hope and we ask the Almighty to bring relief to the people of Gaza and Palestine. This is truly a time where we're all somber. It is really such a sad time. Some of us really do feel overwhelmed in these moments, but we need to keep persisting. We need to keep persisting for the mothers, for the children, for the fathers, the grandfathers. We need to keep persisting. We will never, ever, ever relent. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Congratulations to you. I commend you for coming today. And let's keep being together. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Chef, for those beautiful words. Now, before we get to our final speaker, I just want to give a shout out to some events that are coming up. As we know, this Sunday, our intention is to march at the Opera House. However, as most of you know, the police, for the third time, have decided they would like to take us to court. They would like to oppose this march. Shame, yes. So, and it is going to be opposed by PAG. It is likely that, most likely at this moment, this hearing is going to be tomorrow morning. Now pay attention to our socials, but we will be having just a gathering outside of the court to show that the people want this march, the people demand this march, the people demand to protest at the Opera House for Gaza and for Palestine. This date may change, but we will all be on the Palestine Action Group socials. Now, before we get to our last speaker, who I am very honoured to be introducing today, and you'll understand why in a second, I do want to get this crowd fired up a bit. So Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! We are all by your side! We are all by your side! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! The whole world is by your side! The whole world is by your side! Let's go a bit louder. You cry. We are all by your side. Gaza, Gaza, Palestinian doctor who has been to Gaza in a truly selfless act. I was listening to a podcast by Randa and Sarah Saleh where they mentioned that although we try and defeat the stereotype that Palestinian women are always superheroes and always perfect, Dr. Bushra is an exception to our defeating this stereotype. She is incredible. Let's make her feel very welcome.
We're gathering tonight on unceded land, and I pay my respects to the traditional owners of these lands. Before I actually begin, I thought I'd transport you all to Al-Quds Hospital, which is in Gaza City, and it belongs to the Palestinian Red Crescent Society. It's been surrounded by the Israeli military for over a week, and this is what awaits them on the outside. I stand before you as a Muslim woman, a Palestinian, a general surgeon, and someone who has borne witness to over 3 months in Gaza, to the unrelenting cruelty, the unending darkness that Israel has unleashed upon a people who still choose to live, to love, and to resist. I echo what many of us are feeling. A complete inability to grasp how we have witnessed 2 years of live-streamed genocide, and we have been unable to bring an end to this horror. Even worse, the most recent escalations have left us feeling somewhat helpless. Firstly, I want to share with you a quick story about why visibility matters. Today I'm wearing a kufiya hijab. My Not a Target t-shirt highlights the blatant, relentless attacks on every single healthcare facility in Gaza. Attacks that have decimated the ability to even provide basic care to Palestinians. On the way here with my father, the Uber driver ended the ride early in terms of the cost and said, "Please donate the rest of the money from this trip to our brothers and sisters in Palestine." Shout out to Sam, my Uber driver, and all the good humans of the world who are doing any act, big or small, for Palestinian solidarity. For me in particular, it has been difficult to reintegrate back to this world of privilege and safety after my most recent medical mission. I was honoured to spend 5 weeks from June to July, mostly based at a Shifa hospital and a Quds hospital in Gaza City. I think it's pertinent that I share with you some of the stories from my friends and colleagues and what they have sacrificed in order to be able to survive in Gaza. I think of Ahlam, my dear friend, a mother to triplets who are 4.5 years old, who has taken on a second job just to be able to try to provide them a single meal a day. I think of how the world collapsed beneath her feet when a missile strike in January murdered her mother and sister Arij. I think of Mu'tasim, a young 20-year-old boy, who's staying in a tent next to his brother Suhaib's wife and their 2 young children. A drone followed Suhaib home, and at 2 a.m, a missile strike bombed their tent. Mu'tasim got up, fearing the worst, and found the shredded body of his brother and almost collapsed. His brother and his sister-in-law were murdered, as well as one of their children, and yet their legacy lives on with their youngest child. I think of how the violence that Israel institutes on a daily basis didn't spare Rima, a 13-year-old twin girl whose parents waited 23 years to have them, who stepped outside her tent to put out the washing, and as she was going back inside, was gunned down by a quadcopter and came in with a bullet that had shredded her intestines. I think of Dr. Tariq, who was given a mere 2 minutes to evacuate his pregnant wife and 2 young daughters from their building. Should he be grateful to Israel for this warning? I think of my brave journalist friends, Hani and Ibrahim and Aziz, who put their body and their lives on the line every single day to share with us and the rest of the world the nightmare in which they live. On Sundays, they had 4 grown men sharing 1 protein bar as their meal. How it's possible that the rest of the world hasn't acted in order to prevent this almost 6 months of total blockade of food and aid into Gaza is unbelievable. Shame. I want to take you back to the 17th of June. Hundreds of patients arrived to Al-Shifa Emergency Department. It is overwhelmed. There is chaos and screams and people lying on the floor in the pools of their own blood. There are shredded limbs everywhere. Most of these injuries have come from these so-called aid distribution sites. These are better known as state-sanctioned slaughterhouses. The rest of the population wasn't spared either. There was bombing of tents in Al Zaytun neighborhood. I think of the 11-year-old twin boys that were brought into Al-Quds hospital. One of them is an unknown. In Arabic we refer to this as majhool. We don't even know his name. His left arm had been amputated and he was ashen, and we looked upon him as he took his final breaths in front of us. I think of his brother Sa'ad, who had burns to over 50% of his body, whose left leg we amputated in order to prevent him from further bleeding. We took him to the emergency theatres because we thought that he also had intra-abdominal bleeding. And when I tell you, it is a mercy that he did not survive. He has been spared from the cruelty of what he would have endured with family that we don't even know still exist. I also want to mention 2 of my patients, 14-year-old Muhammad and 13-year-old Yusuf, who are still suffering from abdominal shrapnel injuries to this day, 1 year on, who have been prevented from being medically evacuated because Israel does not deem them worthy of care. Shame. Without spending too much time in regards to the people of the flotilla, I do want to mention 2 of my courageous friends who have been illegally captured and detained by Israel. They are in Ketzut prison, and they are Dr. Bianca Webb-Pullman, a GP from Melbourne, and Abu Bakr Rafiq, a local Sydney-sider content creator. The level of impunity in which Israel operates is not limited to the Palestinian people, but to anyone who shows them support. I want to share with you a few words of what Bianca's mum sent me today. Bianca was visited yesterday in Ketzut prison. Bianca is doing okay, but very distressed by the suffering of her other inmates, including hearing their screams of pain. She has not received her medications, which she saw the Israeli officers throw into a bin. She has drunk the water from the tap out of desperation, but it is foul tasting and she is now nauseous and feeling sick. She's been unable to independently communicate with either Australian consular or legal representatives. Shame. She sent a message to her mother to say, "I love you, don't worry about me, I'm fine." Their courage and steadfastness against the unspeakable evil that is the Israeli state is to be commended. What could we all do? Well, we need to contact our Labor government. As Sheikh Wissam said, they have failed to even mention the word genocide, but they are the ones with the obligation and power to act. They need to hold Israel accountable for abducting our Australian citizens in international waters. They should evict the Israeli ambassador. They need to impose sanctions on Israel and end the two-way weapons trade. Two years have passed since this genocide in Gaza began, the occupied West Bank and Palestine is still under constantly escalating violence, and Palestinians have been under occupation for 77 years and counting, and this world's silence has been deafening. We have watched an entire population be forcibly starved, bombed, displaced, and dehumanized before our eyes, and yet the spirit of the Palestinian people has never been broken. More importantly, it will never be broken. Gaza still breathes. It breathes through the courage of its doctors and nurses and teachers and poets, through the songs of its children, through the unyielding love that the Palestinian people have for their land and for their community. Their endurance is not a story of despair, it is a story of unmatched resistance and sumud. And so our grief must not paralyze us, it must mobilize us. Because to be silent now is to side with the oppressor and be complicit. Seize this moment where our outrage is transformed into organised, relentless action, where we move from sympathy to solidarity, from awareness to accountability and justice. Every march, every conversation, every letter to our government, every boycott and every act of truth-telling, all matters. Liberation is not inevitable, it is built by the courage of ordinary people such as everyone here today and those who refuse to look away. And when Palestine is free, because it will be, history will remember those who stood up. And I want to finally end on the words of Mahmoud Darwish. على هذه الأرض ما يستحق الحياة. Free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! From the sea to the river. Palestine will live forever. Palestine will live forever. Palestine will live forever. From the sea to the river. Palestine will live forever. Thank you very much, everyone. Give yourself a round of applause, please, and thank you so much for showing up. As we gather here today on the eve of 2 years of this horrific genocide, it has changed us all, but if there's any comfort, it is knowing that we have this community to rely on, and this action and this movement that will keep on growing. Thank you everyone for showing up, and we will see you at the next action.
جد الأحرار جد الفلسطينية بنموت وما نسلم دار يسمونا الفدائية جد الأحرار جد الفلسطينية بنموت وما نسلم دار يسمونا الفدائية ما نعيش كفاية فن وإعصار هز الكرة الأرضية خبع الأخبار بداية تحت البستان وركافتك يا غدار من قاضي في مشوية من قاضي في مشوية لبيك يا أقصى لبيك يا أقصى لبيك 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 يا أقصى لبيك يا أقصى لبيك يا أقصى لبيك لبيك تعطيهم درس بالروح القتالية. حي المخيم نور شمس وحي الجبعاوية. أحمد الجبعاوي الحق منه العدو ذاك المر. صدق تحامي ما يفر بالصفوف الأمامية. وصيد الجبعاوي ثار كلهم الموت وللعار. اكبار بعد الكبار انتم الجبعاوية. انتم الجبعاوية. لبيك يا اقصار لبيك يا اقصار لبيك 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 يا اقصار لبيك يا اقصار لبيك يا اقصار
That's if in France